May 6, 1937. The largest flying machine ever built drifts slowly toward a landing tower in New Jersey. On the ground, a radio announcer named Herbert Morrison lifts his microphone to record a routine broadcast. Then the tail of the airship begins to glow orange from within. In the next 30 seconds, Morrison's voice would crack live on air, and the age of the passenger airship would end forever. This is the story of the Hindenburg. By the mid-1930s, airships were not a novelty. They were, for a brief moment, considered the future of air travel. The Hindenburg was the largest flying object human beings had ever constructed. Over 800 feet long, nearly as long as the Titanic, and capable of crossing the Atlantic in about half the time of an ocean liner. It carried private cabins, a dining room, a lounge with a specially built lightweight piano, and even a smoking room, carefully pressurized and sealed to prevent any spark from reaching the 7 million cubic feet of gas that kept the ship aloft. That gas was hydrogen, extremely light, extremely efficient for lift, and extremely flammable. Germany had wanted to fill the Hindenburg with helium instead, which does not burn. But the only major supplier of helium in the world was the United States, and US law at the time restricted its export, partly out of concern over Nazi Germany's military ambitions. So Hindenburg flew on hydrogen instead, just as dozens of airships before it had, without catastrophe, for decades. By May of 1937, the ship had already safely completed dozens of transatlantic crossings. This flight, arriving from Frankfurt, was expected to be routine. 97 people were aboard. 36 passengers and 61 crew, including a young cabin boy named Werner Franz and an 8-year-old passenger named Werner Döner, travelling home to Mexico with his parents and siblings. The flight itself had gone smoothly. By late afternoon, the Hindenburg approached Naval Air Station Lakehurst, delayed slightly by thunderstorms earlier in the day. Reporters and photographers, along with Morrison and his sound engineer, were already on the ground, there simply to cover the routine arrival of a famous airship. At exactly 7:25 in the evening, ground crews began securing landing lines as the Hindenburg hovered roughly 200 feet above the field. Then, witnesses on the ground saw a flicker of flame near the ship's tail. Within seconds, that flicker became an inferno. The hydrogen ignited almost instantly, and the fire spread through the entire ship in roughly 34 seconds. Herbert Morrison, recording nearby, began describing the arrival calmly. Then his voice broke entirely as the ship collapsed into flame in front of him. "It's burst into flames," he said, "and it's falling. It's crashing." Then the line that would outlive the disaster itself. Oh, the humanity! Inside the burning frame, passengers and crew faced an impossible choice: stay with the collapsing structure or jump from a height that could easily kill them. Some extraordinary strokes of luck happened in those seconds. Werner Franz, the young cabin boy, was drenched by a bursting water ballast tank just as flames reached him, and used the soaking to run clear of the fire entirely. Werner Döner's mother threw him and his brother out of a window to the ground crew below, moments before the ship crashed down around her. She and Werner survived. His father and sister did not. The Hindenburg came to rest on the ground, a burning skeleton, in well under a minute. 35 people aboard the airship died, along with one member of the ground crew. But remarkably, 62 of the 97 people on board survived, many by jumping clear in the ship's final seconds before it fully collapsed. Captain Max Pruss, badly burned, survived. Ernst Lehmann, the director of the Zeppelin company, escaped the wreck but died of his injuries the following day. Investigators from both Germany and the United States began searching for a cause almost immediately. Leading theories pointed to a static electricity spark igniting a hydrogen leak, though sabotage was floated publicly within days and never fully ruled out by everyone who studied the case. To this day, historians have never agreed on an exact, provable cause. What is certain is simpler. An enormous volume of hydrogen gas and a spark from somewhere were all it took. Because newsreel cameras happened to already be rolling for what was expected to be a routine, forgettable arrival, the entire disaster was captured on film and in Morrison's raw, unscripted radio account. That combination, dramatic film paired with a recording of real human horror in real time, was almost unprecedented for 1937. Within a day, the footage was playing in cinemas around the world. The Hindenburg disaster effectively ended the passenger airship industry overnight. After decades of steady, incident-free growth, public trust in hydrogen airships collapsed in 34 seconds and never recovered. No hydrogen passenger airship ever flew again. Werner Döhner, the 8-year-old boy thrown from a burning window by his mother, went on to live a full life in the United States. He rarely spoke publicly about that night. When he finally did, decades later, he said only that he remembered flames and being tossed toward the ground. He died in 2019 at 90 years old, the last living survivor of the disaster. The Hindenburg is remembered today less for its engineering, which was genuinely remarkable, and more for 34 seconds captured on film by cameras that were only there because nobody expected anything unusual to happen at all. Sometimes history's most defining moments arrive exactly like that. Not anticipated, not staged. Just an ordinary afternoon, a routine landing, and a single spark in exactly the wrong place at exactly the wrong time. The Hindenburg disaster remains one of the most studied accidents in the history of transportation, not because it was the deadliest, but because it was the most witnessed. Cameras rolling for a routine arrival became the reason the entire world understood instantly that an era had ended.